Hola, welcome back. Akeni is a Czech Nigerian artist, founder, speaker, and serial entrepreneur with over 2 decades of experience in the entertainment industry, arts, and social innovation. He was selected as a crew member for the historic Dear Moon mission, the first civilian trip around the moon led by SpaceX and Yusaku Maezawa. Yemi is the founder of JAD Productions, a creative agency that has won numerous awards for clients like Mercedes-Benz, Adidas, and Google. He also founded Moonshot Platform, a nonprofit accelerating young leaders and tech-based social innovations across 88 countries, which has impacted over 3 million people. Yemi's 5-year collaboration with Kanye West saw him create global concerts, tours, and iconic performances such as the VMAs, the Yeezus Tour, and in 2022, he was awarded a silver medal by the President of the Senate of the Czech Republic for his contributions to social innovation. He also serves on the board of Cyrus and Space for Humanity, furthering his commitment to transformative global change. I hope that you enjoy my time with my friend as much as I did, and don't miss the end for a special treat. Hey y'all, let's go there. How's your heart? What's on your heart, Yemi?
Okay, let me check with my vibe. So in Austin, so always it's great to be here. I love coming back. I feel this city just energize me. And after the festival, I'm pretty relaxed. I'm looking forward to go home to New York. I've been traveling for past 4 weeks. I've been to Africa. I've been to Europe, been to Ireland. So it's going to be good to be back.
Yeah. Feels good to have you here.
Thank you.
It always inspires me when you're here. It makes me happy when you're here. I'm grateful for the time.
I have the best time. It's like a special pocket of fun that we have here every time I come.
Yeah. And I think we have fun memories every time. And I'm grateful that you come and stay with us and for the awesome breakfasts you make me.
I love to cook.
Yeah. And the late night Thai food.
Whenever it's possible, I am creature of the kitchen.
Yeah. So good. Okay. So Yemi, I already told everyone your bio and it precedes you because you're known in this world, but how do you see yourself? Because to describe you, you're an astronaut, you're creative, you're a choreographer, you're an entrepreneur, you're a nonprofit leader, dare I say humanitarian, you're a citizen of the globe. There's so many different ways. You're Nigerian, you're Czech, you're gay, you're out in the world. How do you identify? How do you describe yourself in the world?
Well, I would say I am mover. I love to move both my body and everything inside of the body. I love to travel around the world. I love to change my perspective on things. I love to dance. I love to move people. I love to move emotions. So I think everything I've ever done is somehow connected with movement and freedom. And and of course it's creative one way or another.
To be in your presence is to be in the presence of something being created always. How did you become all of these things? I want to hear a little bit about your story and how did movement become a part of your story?
So this story goes way back to 1980s, to Czechoslovakia, communist country under the rule of the USSR. Yeah, and I was born to a Czech mom and Nigerian father. And I was kind of disconnected from the kids. And dance and movement was the language I was using to create bridges between me and the rest of the the community we lived in. It's called panelák in Czech. In your, like a synonym would be a project, and like a block of flat. And I remember that I always knew how to move, so the kids would come to me and they would ask me to teach them, and I was feeling great because it was something I could contribute with. Yeah, and then I remember my mom once she brought me to an aerobics studio, aerobics, and I saw through a glass that there was like a class where they would train for competition. So it was a sports aerobics. And I saw it and I was like, this looks easy. Why they are so, like they make it look difficult, but it's easy. And I decided to go for it. And I realized that it is actually difficult. And because it was challenging, and I always loved challenge. And until then, I never challenged myself physically. I just fell in love. There was a community, and I started to compete and I started to win. And after 2 years, I started to also teach aerobics, and that's how I started to move.
And how old were you at this point?
It was like 14.
I want to spend some time on this part of your life. You said something yesterday on a panel, and somebody asked you the question, why you do what you do. And you said a quote from someone, I can't recall who it was, that everything I do for my 17-year-old self. Was it Virgil?
It was Virgil.
Yeah.
So I was honored to spend about 5 years of my life working with Virgil during our time with Kanye West. And I just love this quote. And I say everything I do for 13-year-old version of myself. Because for me, the time around my early teenage years was very formative. And I felt like I was missing a lot. And that's why I try to kind of feed more love and energy into that part of my life, into the past. So my father, he was visiting Nigeria to visit his parents when I was 4, and he never came back. So we stayed alone with my mom. We didn't understand what was happening. Later on, we found out there was a revolution in Nigeria, and the connection between Czech Republic and Nigeria was served. There was some business relationships, as we were a communist country. They also had like an absolutism. So there was no connection. And then when internet was invented, and I remember I started to use it when I was 15, I started to look for my dad. And I always believed that if my dad was with me, I wouldn't have to suffer that much. And I did look for him for maybe 1.5 years. And I found a university in Ibadan that knew of our family name and connected me to him. 18 years later, when I was 22, I invited him to Czech Republic and we reunited. So that 18 years of separation was very also formative in its own way for me. And I felt like I was missing a lot. I was missing my identity. This is like, I think that more and more kids have this same self-identifying challenge, which is the culture and the people of your mother, they kind of reject you. And the same is the people of your father. Like, I'm not dark enough to be Nigerian. I'm not white enough to be Czech. And you are growing up with this feeling, and it doesn't bother you because as a kid, you have bigger problems to deal with. But it's this little thing in the back of your mind. You have to just stand for yourself and be okay with this rejection from the world and kind of form your own culture and create your own nation, your own island. And as I was growing up, I realized that actually my island can be pretty awesome. And I think people actually want to come to join me on my island.
Totally.
So that's the twist, or that's the change that I think we all, in one or another type of language, depends how we describe it, we come to this moment or we don't.
Yeah. It's interesting. I share this sentiment with you. A lot of immigrants have this sentiment too of not fitting in anywhere. So for example, I was talking to a first generation Mexican American, and he was saying, I don't fit in Austin, and yet I don't fit in Mexico because I've been in the United States for too long. And so where do I fit in? And I have had this feeling too, but much like you, I came to a realization at some point in my life that because I don't fit in certain places, I fit in everywhere, and that I can create the sort of culture that I want to have.
There is freedom in not fitting. But this is where the mindset really plays the pivotal role, like how you look at it, right? Like half full or half empty glass. I agree that it gives me my relationship to freedom was shaped by this, because when I was in my city, the first 15 years of my life, I did not see another black person. There was no other black person in the whole city. It was the Liberec, it's in the north of Czech Republic on the border with Germany. And there is like 100,000 people in the city. And the first time I saw another black person was when I was 15, there was another boy and his family, but I never saw his family, but just the boy who moved in, and then his brother. So people always take notice whatever you do, and it's very hard to hide. And you're like a landmark, right? Like yeah, it's that where the black boy lives, that behind that corner, or when you go to cinema, everybody knows you are in the cinema because you're like an attraction. So sometimes you want to be invisible. Sometimes you're scared because when you do something and it's every act is stigmatized. Right. And you can imagine what it is for any human being when you are coming of age and you're for the first time falling in love, or you are for the first time you do anything for the first time. So that kind of clips the wings of your freedom, and you and also being in a communist country means there is a big stigma around speaking the truth, right? There is this self-censorship because you are still worried that, my mother was always very open, wholehearted and open and very kind of flamboyant woman, that whatever is on her heart is on her tongue. So she would say things that would get us in trouble. And so that is another way how you cannot be, free. And then later when I found my father, I found out that he has a new wife and daughters and son. And his second son, who is the oldest after me, has a Down syndrome. And when I found out, because kids who have Down syndrome, they need to go through surgery of heart at a certain age, pretty early. There is like a limit to it where you need to do it in order for them to survive. And in Nigeria, that's not a really good idea to have a heart surgery. I don't want to make anybody scared. Maybe there are resources to do a heart surgery that's going to be successful, but we just did not trust it. So, and Czech Republic is one of the best heart surgeries like in the world. They have a great results. So we decided to do that in Czech Republic. So I met my brother, and they live in Czech Republic until now. This was my first project to help my father and his family to move to Czech Republic. And with getting to know my brother, I also understood another definition of the word freedom and another layer to what it means, which was beautiful because I felt like when he came to Czech Republic, he just grew into this beautiful young boy who became like a emotional glue in our family. Most empathic person that can see through you. You don't even have to say anything. He knows if you had a bad day.
And is there for you. So how do you get from being involved in aerobics competition to successful enough at 22 that you can actually bring your father and his family to Czech Republic? What happens in those years?
So actually the dance was kind of the key to open a lot of things for me. In the beginning of my life, I thought dance is everything. So I became a known dancer. I started to travel around the world. I was being booked to do beautiful shows. I was on a tour through Tokyo, Mumbai, Istanbul, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Barcelona, many different places. And then I became choreographer. And I also, when I was 18, I got my first TV show. So I started to also host. It was a chart show, something like an MTV top 10 chart. And I was doing really well. And I started to, I kind of like, I started my first business when I was 16 because with my mom, we were struggling a lot through different reasons, throughout many, many, many different years. So it always was a great motivator for me to stand on my own feet and also provide, to be able to support her, to support myself, and to kind of escape the circumstances of my life because I was very unhappy as a child. When I invited my father, I remember I had my first apartment that I actually was able to buy in this young age. And I moved out. They moved in with his family and I just rented another place and we started to, coexist and learn who we are, learn about each other.
Wow, that's beautiful. And what did you learn?
Very often we do it that we fall in love with image of people and we fantasize about what could have been and how people are, but it's really far from reality. Like the longer you live in your head, the more expectation you just form. And it took us some time, it took us years to really be bold and brave enough to look into each other's heart and to accept each other with everything that we hold. And that was not easy. My father is Christian pastor. As you mentioned earlier, I'm queer. And also, I was not raised by a man. I was raised by three women, my mom, my grandma, and my great grandma. Three white women. I love them so much. And I love, unfortunately, my great grandma and my grandma have passed. And now there was this, Nigerian father that had, expectations, and there's a distinct role that fathers and men, has in Nigerian culture. So adjustment on my end, adjustment on his end, but I'm very proud of him. I'm very, very grateful for our relationship, how it evolved, and how he, when we discussed, who I am and how I walk through my life, he said, "You are my son. I love you. That's what's most important, and everything else comes after." So I think these were the moments that, for any son, it's needed for you to continue to evolve healthy, or to have this type of support from both of your parents, or at least, just to have this self identity through your parents.
So it's interesting, Yemi, because what I'm seeing in this is it's preparing you for the life that you're about to lead. So you're coming from a community where you stand out. You're very visible. All eyes are on you. And then you feel a sense of longing. So you go seek it out and you solve it. You bring your father, you serve your father and his family in that way. And then you're also coming into your own. You're starting to accept yourself for who you are and unleash yourself onto the world. And this is about the time, if I'm not mistaken, that your work starts to get pulled to the US. You're introduced to Kanye for the first time. Tell me about how that happened. How did Kanye West come into your life, and what transpired after that?
Mm-hmm. So I just also want to mention that my family and its relocation, I don't want to make it sound like, I had a magic wand and I just made it happen. My father had to also work very, very hard to make that happen and to be able to sustain himself and his daughters and his son and wife. And it was not an easy thing. So I want to also give him credit for all that. And when I think about Kanye, and it's kind of funny because when we met, it was 2009, and today is like almost like saying Kanye West is like a controversial, controversial thing to say, which is ridiculous when I know what we have experienced and how we moved around each other. So 2009, he came to Czech Republic to shoot his short movie Runaway, and I was contacted by a production company, and they offered me to choreograph. And that was our first work together, and how I met Virgil for the first time. And the outcome was, they thought the outcome was extraordinary. So, a few weeks later, they called me and they said, Yemi, please, you have to come to New York. We need you. We want you to do another piece. That's how it started.
And that was your first time coming to the States?
It was no. So this is also kind of, there is this synchronicity going through my life on many different, it manifests in many different ways. So I always was dreaming to make it, to be on the biggest stage there is. And that's why when I was 18, I saved my money through I did one campaign. I was shooting some billboard campaign for, I think, T-Mobile. And then I also had my business. So I saved money and I went to Hollywood.
I don't think I know this. Okay.
When I was 18.
Okay.
It was crazy. I didn't really know that thing. And I remember I just had a few $100 in my pocket. And I went, and I remember I went because I wanted to get a certificate to become street dance teacher. And it was impossible in Czech Republic. And I just loved to learn, hip hop, street dance, all these techniques from the place of origin, from US. And I remember I came, I took a bike. I was looking for a place for the school. And I'm terrible in navigation. Like I get lost in a parking lot every time. So I was biking, and I was hit by a car.
Oh my gosh, I did not know this story.
Yeah, I remember I was biking. If you remember, like in Hollywood, it's really, really steep. And I remember I was sweating. I couldn't find it. It was like, it took me hours to find it. It's like, I don't even know if, I think it was before we had Google Maps, right? Like,
yeah, probably.
I had like it was when it was
if it was before 2007.
2000.
Oh yeah, you didn't even have a smartphone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember that I finally saw the logo on the building, and I was so excited that I crossed the crossroad diagonally on the bike.
Oh God.
And and then this lady hit me, and I just remember I was just flying. I land on my back, and I hear this lady starting, oh my God, just running, trying to pick me from the floor. But at the same time, I didn't understand her hesitance, because then I later understood how in America everybody sues everyone for everything.
Yeah.
So she was like, should I, like come closer or not? And then there was this black lady who came to my aid and leaned towards me. And I recognized this was the owner of the studio that I went to.
No.
And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, are you Madonna Grimes? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I am coming from Czech Republic. I am coming to take your course. And she picked me from the street and brought me to the studio that was just like few steps away. And this was my entrance.
Oh my gosh.
So they could never forget Yemi from Czech Republic.
Were you hurt?
No, I was very, I would say goofy. I was like, yeah, I was not hurt.
Wow.
It was not like a huge accident.
You just got bumped.
I got bumped. I flew. I landed on my back, I remember. And, and I felt very alive.
Yeah. Okay. So this was your first experience. I didn't know that. That was your first experience in terms of studying street dance. Then you find yourself in New York with Kanye. And what are some of the first things? What is the sort of work that you were doing for him and Virgil?
So in the beginning, I would choreograph, but I would also lead the casting. So I'm supposed to, pick the people, then work closely with the costume department and with makeup department, and just like kind of lead the way on how the show is developed. So first it was the Runaway, the music video with ballerinas, tong, 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 tong. And then the VMAs, then, which was very interesting. Then the Saturday Night Live, and then the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy Tour in Europe, in Australia, in Africa. And then there was a gap. They did Watch the Throne with Jay-Z, and then we did yeezus. And for yeezus tour, I became director. So I would be leading the development of the entire show, which was for me, it was one of the best shows ever made for tour, for live shows. It was exceptional. Like the emotions that the people would have watching that show. It was this big mountain that cracked in half. And then there was this procession, a Christian procession that would walk through the mountain. And then there was like women dancing in this unitards with this mask, and he would have these different masks on his face. And it was dramatic, theatrical in a way, but also very like a fashion, like it had really, really interesting styles, but it was like a movement, piece of art in movement, in motion.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was art.
So we did about 100 shows, so a lot. And Virgil was like, he was like the guardian angel for me, because whenever I had a problem or when I was feeling down or I needed to answer something I didn't understand, I would go to Virgil. He would always have time for me. He would always be supportive. I was very young. I came, it was my first time doing these big shows on the biggest stages with Gaga and Rihanna and just be meeting all these people. And I was very young. So I had a big mouth. I would always say things I'm not supposed to say or be in the face of someone or be too slow. And I remember that Kanye never repeat anything twice. So, and then imagine that I learned English in Czech school. So I would always have to lower down because he was a little bit shorter and really listen closely to what he's saying. Because of course there is slang and there is there's different types of English. and I remember it was always like, I was trying really hard so I don't have to ask any questions and delay the process because things has to just run. So it was funny. Like now I have to say that I had a really great relationship with him. I loved him for how he had patience with me, and he would really, I don't think there's many people who would just go and pick someone from Czech Republic and then give this opportunity to a young boy to do all this work and give this a huge responsibility. And there is 1,000 other people who would love to do this job. And also the freedom. The freedom was extraordinary because everybody always just speaks about budgets and limitations, and you can't do this, you can't do that. Everything is limited. And for artists, especially when you are an artist that works for another artist, right? There's two types of art. You are either artists that just do this free expression, and then you also can be artists that do the craft for other artists. So you are in service of someone's vision, and then it really depends on very delicate relationship on how much freedom you have. And then what do you do with that freedom? And then if you are okay by creating maybe 20 different pieces, and then 18 of these pieces are trashed, and just 2 are taken up and used somewhere. So there is a lot of work with ego, a lot of work with, the relationship and then also the team and how to, because like my work has no value if I don't know how to plug into everybody in the team. When I should build such a huge concert like yeezus was, there is people who care for hydraulics of the stage, people who care for pyrotechnics. There is several people in the costume design, the costume department. There was Margella who would bring the masks, and there would be we had a person who was the designer of magic for David Copperfield.
No way.
Who would come, the person behind the scenes who would design the magical stunts, who would come and be on the team. We had a person who would understand Christianity and understand the symbolism behind it. We would have like you and this is everything always was for the first time. So I would have to kind of lead and make sure that 15 heads of departments can really understand each other and agree with each other on what the final outcome of the show is. So we can also make it safe. So when someone walks on the stage, they're not burned and they don't fall. And, so.
So it's given me a lot of insight as to how you learn to manage so much complexity and why you are unafraid to be so ambitious and bold in your visions, if that's what you were managing so early in your career. Now, you just said the VMAs was really interesting, and you have a story about the VMAs that I think establishes, it says more about you than it does Kanye. It says a lot about Kanye, but in particular, I like what this story says about you because it gives insight into why he trusted this kid in his early 20s. So what happened at the VMAs in that production that makes that story interesting?
A lot of things happened at the VMAs.
Yeah. But in this story.
It was very interesting because it was like the year after there was this moment with Taylor Swift, right? Kanye and Taylor Swift. So this was the next year and we were closing the show. I remember I didn't know I'm going to be choreographing. I flew to New York, not knowing. And I asked, well, what can I take with me? And you take whatever you want. So I took.
Oh shit! So you showed up no
because
clue.
There's always like there's confidentiality. There's always information embargo on different things, and So I brought 3 of my ballerinas, my assistant, a type of fabric and things that I used because, of course, I did my own shows in Czech Republic and I also did shows around the world. It's just that I have never did it in the US, like a entertainment industry in the top tier. It was new to me. So I only in New York, I found out we were like, rehearsing, in Electric Lady studio. And then we flew to LA and then I was told that this is VMAs. I remember I came into the theater. It was Kodak Theater, I think. And I remember I had this vertigo moment because the stage was biggest stage I've ever seen. They would take out rows of chairs to expand the stage. It was really huge. And I remember, having the rehearsal and then we would delay the rehearsal and then there would be Gaga after us. And we were so nervous about it or there was, and then Rihanna came to say congrats after the show. So there was these beautiful moments. I met Justin Bieber there for the first time. I met Jared Leto, and many other people. And, the story that I think you are referring to is, so we had this like nice, beautiful choreography that was with 3 ballerina and Kanye was in the middle and he was, playing his machine. It's like a little device that you sample to put samples in and you play it. So there is a live element to it and he's rapping, he's playing. And we have this beautiful Roman column that this machine is placed upon. And after rehearsals, we meet with the director of the show in the backstage. We are downstairs in the room, and they are like, you know what, you don't really need the dancers. I think it's better we drop the dancers and you're just gonna be there alone. You are such an artist. You don't need another artist. It's already so artistic. And they start to do this like, whoa. And I'm just looking at it. And I saw the tape from the rehearsal. So I also have my own opinion about what's right and what's wrong. And I can see that there was some anxiety because Kanye likes to direct his own thing. So unless other artists who there is someone who instructing them, Kanye likes to do it themselves. So he would place a screen on the side that would be facing him so he can see how it looks. But this kind of flips everybody because then they are not in control. So it's much harder for them to do their work. So I understand. And there's also last minute changes and so on. It's a creative process, Everybody is approaching it from a different perspective, but you can never be sure that this path will bring better result than this path, because every artist is unique and you kind of need to go with the flow of the artist. So I can see that they're nervous because their camera blocking might not be working because it's not. So they are rather simplify it. So they are there. I am there. They are saying it. Then they are leaving. And I'm looking at Kanye. I say, And this was very funny. So, you know, every language has proverbs.
Yes.
Right? So some Czech proverbs
don't translate.
I remember, I'm like, you know, like they are putting honey around your mouth.
He's like, what?
How are you saying in English? Sugar coating?
Sugar coating.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like, well, this was never ending story. It would go so far that Kanye would start to mimic me and make fun and use my accent when I was not in the room, and people didn't tell me because it was hilarious. Anyway, so I'm saying, like, they are lying to you. They are just, you know, behind with what they probably want it to be, but it definitely looks great with the dancers. And it was not just because, of course, I was like, I came all this way and I'm not gonna let this fall through. But at the same time, I love integrity. I love, you know, even if it might not be good for me, I love to just speak the truth. I think there is so much value in that relationship, because this was one of the first times we worked together. But if we work together for years, we have to establish to be truthful. So I said it, and he was like, and everybody, I remember this look. Everybody was like, because they're lying, which is it's a big statement. So he was like, bring me the recording from the rehearsal, it was shooting rehearsal.
Didn't they kick you out?
So not yet. so they bring it. He's looking at it. And he's looking at it. He's like, and this, by the way, is like an hour before the live stream.
Oh, geez.
So imagine VMAs. There is a whole lineup of stars. There is people. There's red carpet. We are in the backstage. Not back. We have our room, like our room. We see it on the screens. And he's like, okay, so ask them to come back. And ask them, the director and the producer, ask them to come back. This is like an hour before. So we waiting, you know, I'm sweating. They come back. And as they come back in the room, I see the security is taking me and moving me to the corner of the room. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand. I'm then in the corner of the room, and I can hear from far that they are like having this exchange. He's showing them, and it's like, why do you say this? It looks great. It works. You know why? And they are like, again, no, this is da 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 da. So until Kanye is like, okay, maybe you don't understand me. I have the red sneakers and I have the white sneakers, and I'm just telling you, I like the red sneakers. And I remember they just stood up and they were like, after all, it's your show. Let's do it. And they leave. And I understand they took me away because I might say another thing and the show might not even work, because Kanye he don't give a shit. He's like, all he cares about is the artistic integrity of whatever he is, you know, delivering.
Yeah.
Which is there is a certain purity in it. It's interesting to work with someone like that. There is not many people who would lead their creative process this way. So I go back and he's like, okay, Yemi, let's do this. The dancers are going to come here. They're going to be here in this part of the song, and then they're going to go out this way. Then going to come back, be here with me. They go around, they go back. And he's just telling me like this whole new choreography. And I'm like, again, every time this is happening, I go lower, put my ear, and I'm like, okay, let's remember every little thing. And I said, okay, let's do it. So I go out, my dancers are like, what's happening? So I take them, I go into a room, and I say, okay, we are in, let's do this. And I remember there's this boy sitting on a bench, and I'm just asking him, please, can you just move a little bit because we need some space to rehearse. And I'm doing it with the girls. We have like this fabric that we dyed in the same color of Pusha T's suit in Kanye West washing machine at his LA home. I think that washing machine was done with this.
You ruined the washing machine.
With dyeing this piece of fabric. But I also love that we could just do everything ourselves. I love to be in the process, to really do things like artists, right? It's not like you always have people do things for you. And there is, I think, a big value in it. So we do it. And then I look up and I see this screen and I see that this boy who I just asked to move was in the green room waiting to come on stage, and it's Justin Timberlake.
Oh my God. This boy.
and he was sweet. He was sweet. It's the sweetest person. Very nice, very kind. And then we go on stage and you can see it. It's online. It looked dope.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. And I think it was a great show. It was a closing show of the VMAs. And it was just different. It was different than anything people were used to seeing.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of the runaway and then this whole era kind of established this new aesthetics.
Yeah.
And of course, this was a teamwork. There was, I think Rushka Bergman. She used to be a stylist for Michael Jackson. She worked with us. And then later, Vanessa Beecroft that came on board and started to design the aesthetics.
Yeah. So hearing that story, I just think of what courage it took for you to speak the truth at such a young age in that room with so much power, so much fame and power. And also the courage to pave a new way, to do something that's completely different, which I recognize that also established trust in your working relationships. Now I want to zoom out a little bit, Yemi, because you're a part of an industry that has a reputation for being toxic. And one of the things we talk about on this podcast is toxic workplaces. But you are the least toxic person that I know in terms of how you move through the world and how you lead people. How did that happen when you were a part of an industry that can be the exact opposite?
I think it's like, like you either do things that you pay forward, which means like someone is toxic to you, so you're toxic to others. So you're more reactive, or you can be responsive. And and this was not always my case. I would snap. I would shout. I would be like, when I was young, I had also short temper, and I really had to train this muscle to be not reactive, but responsive, and to pause before I react. And I remember that, the reason was because I didn't want to inflict the same type of pain that people did to me, to others. And I remember when I was in the States, LA always made me feel so low. It made me feel so worthless. And it made me feel like when I went to different auditions. I went to audition for Michael Jackson. I went to audition for Britney Spears. And it was not a good experience. It was just like, I felt like a piece of, yeah. I don't know. I don't have the right words for it. And then when I had the chance 10 years later to actually lead the audition, I knew that majority of people are not going to get the job. So that's established, right? And I remember first time we did auditions, was like, people would look down to me because I had no name, and we couldn't say it's audition for Kanye. So I had nothing to work with. And there was like 50 people showed up. But we made sure that these 50 people had a great experience. And whether they are in or out, that they are enriched by this encounter. And that we create a vibe in the room, and we just like, we are artists. We're going to create something beautiful. Even in that day matters, that presence, that moment. In few months, we had hundreds of people coming to auditions. We had like 300, 400, 500 people waiting in the queue. The auditions would take 8 hours, and people would block their day because they would know they are going to have fun and they are going to dance. When I came to audition, sometimes I wouldn't even dance because I was too tall, too short, too dark, too light, or something like that. So, and I understand there's the industry, you need to be efficient and this and that. But honestly, it doesn't cost so much more to treat people well. To have, even though if you need to have them in a line, maybe you stand up from the table and you go and shake their hand, you touch them, you look into their eyes, you acknowledge that they are in the room, and before they leave, because I think the toxicity I think comes from leadership. Because if I don't know many examples where people would like to foster a kind environment. I feel like the directors and producers, they only focus on the product of their work and kind of allow whatever happens in means to this end to just be in the washing machine, just to squeeze it and let's go on. I don't want to be harsh in judging the whole industry. So no, my own personal experience very often was this: working on TV, working in live shows industry. And that's what I didn't want to be part of. I wanted to make sure, because also we all have kids, right? So if I would think about my daughter or my son, I wouldn't want them to be in that industry at all. And that many times I had a dance school in Prague for 13 years, and the parents would ask me, they want their kids to be in my school. And I just couldn't imagine I would invite these kids who are so fragile, and their life is going to be defined by how they see the world, how they draw their first map of the world, what matters, what doesn't matter, how we treat each other. And it is within the communities like dance where you establish these first relationships between you, yourself, your soul, your body, your heart.
That then begs the next question. And you're starting to give me some more insight into why you do what you do. But I want to ask you, what made you decide to do moonshots, and what is it?
So, okay, before we go there, I just want to also acknowledge, because we are here in Texas, but moonshot means very different thing from my people in Nigeria, from my people in Czech Republic, for my people in, Bali. I have different homes, and I want to speak not only like from Americans to Americans, but actually for all of them. And, sometimes in the different stages of your life, moonshot, for some of the people we serve, moonshot is just have food on the table that is healthy.
Yeah.
So what made me to make Moonshot Platform, or to form it? The beginning was, I had dreamed to fly to the moon, and I remember that first time I dared to share it with my classmate. I got a scholarship to be part of Henry Crown Fellowship in Aspen Institute, and this is like a group of people. They are at inflection point. They are in top of their league in their own separate industries. It's very diverse. So there is journalists, there is a soldier who used to serve in Afghanistan, there is a business person, and there is an artist. And I shared it. And this is what America is great in, encouraging people. So if you say something like that to people in Czech Republic, they'll be like,
good luck. Yeah.
Like, why don't you do something productive? Or you will gonna be sad once you fail, or there's so many other things you can dream of that are achievable. This would be our united Czech beliefs and dreams. And in America, it's like, hell yeah. Who should do it if not you, right? Like it's such a great idea. You should definitely do it. And in my class, I really had so much beautiful encouragement from my classmates. And it's not like a fake, because they have achieved amazing things. There is people who are like a great inspiration for me on my journey. So I saw how they believe in me, and I then was like, why even if I said it, I still didn't believe myself. But they made me to believe myself. So they then voted to call the class, because every class got to have a name, and it's being voted by the 21 members to be called Moonshot. And I remember I was leaving from Aspen, from Colorado, after that week, and I felt like a burden on my shoulders. Like I have to figure out, right? I was trying to get cell phone number to Elon Musk. I was trying to, I was not naive. Okay. So there was this article that says that Yusaku Maezawa, a Japanese entrepreneur and art collector, is going to pay for one trip around the moon on the newest rocket of Elon Musk, of SpaceX. the Starship to 8 artists. He's going to fly with them. And why artists? Because he thinks artists, can change the world. If they experience this otherworldly moments and see the Earth from the space, how will they describe that experience? What would happen to our collective perception of the planet, of our home, if it was described and if the stories were made by artists? So it's, I think, very profound idea. And so I knew that it exists, but it was nowhere to be found online. So we were trying to just like search for it. And then I remember pandemic started and I felt like we were going to die. I remember that first weeks.
There was a moment.
Yeah, there was this first weeks was like, shit, this is going to be hard.
It's like the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And we are used to see all these apocalyptic movies. So now we were living in one. So I called back to my class and I spoke to several people, to Pete, who you know, to Ruben, to Yvonne Hao. And I asked them, what if we do Moonshot here on Earth? We don't wait for me to go to the moon, or we don't wait because each of us had Moonshot, right? My Moonshot was the literal one, but everybody in the class had their own Moonshot. And they were like, yeah, this will be a reason for us to keep in touch, even though we couldn't travel. You remember I was in Prague, they were in the States. And so we had every Sunday, we had this meeting and started to build Moonshot Platform, which became this beautiful accelerator for young people to do social innovations. Back then, I became a friend with Madeleine Albright, who I met on the street.
No.
And I spoke Czech to her and she was like, oh, this black guy speaks Czech. I need to know who this is. And we started to be friends. And she was instrumental in helping us to get credibility in US market.
May she rest in peace, Madeleine.
Yeah, I miss her very much. And we just started to help young people to do great social innovation, support them financially, give them mentorship, create this acceleration program. And it started to be really big. And then they actually announced a global call for the moon mission. And this was like maybe a year later. And I applied, went through many, many, many different rounds of evaluation. I had to submit my choreography. I had to go to the interview. I had to do all the medical tests, scans. I had like hundreds of tests, which was great. I found out that I'm pretty healthy and strong. And then eventually, after 2 years, I win my seat. Out of 1 million people from everywhere in the world, I win my seat. And I didn't want to believe it. It changed everything for me, because I could see how when you are in fellowship with people, when you are with people who believe in you, how much do you more dare to do great stuff, and how much it can change how you believe in yourself. And then how actually I can actually do it. And if I can win this, that what are the other things I didn't believe I can, that I actually can? How much my freedom is going to be expanded by this win. And I didn't even go to moon, but I already got this win, and this win just changed everything. And then 2 years later, I met all different astronauts, here, Tim Copra, Richard Carriot, Pasquet from France, and many others. I learned so much. I went to the Starship launches. I met with Elon Musk. I met with, great. You become the family of astronauts, which I was very grateful and honored. But then they canceled the mission just a few months ago, actually. So I'm still in this little tender moment that is hard. But at the same time, the reason why they canceled the mission is because Yusaku Maezawa had a contract with SpaceX that they will deliver the rocket at a certain time, and they did not deliver the rocket in the time frame. Yeah, it was planned for 2023. Then they were kind of willing to wait until probably 2024. So, and now I understand both parties. Yeah. So I understand Yusaku. I understand the enormous amount of money that you pay for something like that. And that you have a contract and you want,
there's a deadline.
You need to be able to expect because planning to go to the moon is not like like you're going to have, you're going to just fly to Bali for a week. It's like you have to change everything in your life to practice, to train, to be always alerted. Anytime they can call you for tests. They can call you to come to lounges are being shifted, the test lounges and so on. So it's intense. And I know because I've been through it. So I understand him, but I also understand Elon because they're building something that has never been done before. This rocket there's these new engines that are having this new type of propellant so they can actually mine it on Mars. This is the rocket that will bring people to Mars. This is the rocket that will make us multiplanetary species. So this type of undertaking, you can't just expect everything to be done. Like the predictions are hard. You go from one milestone to another milestone. And every time you launch and you fail and you're going to fail forward, you measure what happened and that will determine how much more time you need to another iteration of the rocket. So I understand both. I think this is kind of why there is so many conflicts in the world because we are people from very different cultures. We have very different understanding of the world around us and our language is different. And then we might not be able to understand each other. But at the same time, I knew that this only moved me forward and that it was a great win because I learned so much and I just made my life better. And Moonshot Platform is just one of the outcomes that was formed from this promise of the space journey. And I will wait now, focus a little bit on my life. And then I try again.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I know that you're still processing it, but it is interesting because you definitely have taken the approach that this wasn't done to you. It was done for you. Like you said, your life was on call. So in a way, you were on hold while you were waiting for this mission because you didn't know exactly when it was going to happen. And, I have to admit, I was a little nervous for you. Like I was a little scared. As your friend, I've never told you this. I was afraid.
Me, my mom was too.
Yeah. We've never said it out loud.
She was so relieved when she found out that it's kind of stuff.
As a matter of fact, there was a commercial space mission the other day and Amelia texted me from school, "Is Yemi on there?" And I was like, "No, it's not. He's not. It's okay. He's all good. He's on planet Earth with us." But at the same time, I say that in the same breath, I do believe you're still going to do it. You're the sort of person that when you have a dream, you manifest it. So I truly believe that you're going to do it. But what's also beautiful in this is that in this was born Moonshot's platform, which you're doing for young leaders and which I personally got to experience with you in Czech Republic. Thank you so much for including me.
Thank you for being part of our amazing group of mentors.
I mean, I don't want to say kids because it's young leaders. Between the ages, I think our youngest was 16 and the oldest was 30 something. Yeah. These amazing social impact entrepreneurs from around the globe, many of which couldn't even get visas to go to the US. So you held it in Czech Republic. We had 70 people this year? Yeah. Is that right? 70 young leaders.
70 young leaders, 30 mentors from really very different walks of life. Coders, humanitarian fighters, people who fight for environment, for the planet, but also people who fight for social justice. And many of them starting startups that are actually impactful. So I love this marriage between these young people being smart and finding self-sustainable ways how to be impactful and how to, change the world around them.
Yeah. What's super cool is that you're supporting these young leaders in their entrepreneurial pursuits, but then you're also doing it in a multi-generational way. So you bring in people like myself and others who are older to help coach them and mentor them and moderate for them. You give them this multidisciplinary experience, which is a mind, body, spirit experience that includes movement, that includes readings, that includes meditation. You hold this amazing camp for a week, and then they start to forge relationships with each other, which is super, super powerful. But I want you to tell us about some of the things that these young people are doing in the world, because that was what I was, along with how you choreographed this amazing experience. I want our audience to hear about what it is that they're doing in the world, what you're actually enabling.
So, number one, I am so grateful that I can be part of their journey. Like I couldn't be in a better place because being surrounded by young people who are so bold and have these audacious ideas and bringing them to life, not just talkers, but actual doers, is really is a place of privilege to be able to help them on their way. When you spoke about, the embodiment and the intergenerational part, I just want to say that it's not about coaching them or mentoring them. It's about coaching and mentoring. And it happens both ways.
You're so right.
And I think this is what is so important about how we approach leadership in 2024, because it would be very silly to think that the knowledge and wisdom is only passed downstream. This is, I think, one of the biggest changes in the society today, that we should allow young people to also teach us.
Yeah.
It should go both ways. I think this underrepresentation of young voices at the decision-making tables is one of the reasons why we are racing to the bottom.
Yeah.
In many industries and many, we create inventions. We just think about the profit. We don't think about any other values. And young people have capacity to think outside of this box and come with amazing ideas.
Totally.
So
shout out to my muse and producer, Anna Rinke, by the way, because she's in her 20s and I'm over 20 years older than her. And it's the same thing. I'm learning from her every day.
Yeah.
Okay, Go ahead.
And then also the embodiment. So this is another, like a big, portion of the DNA of Moonshot, the Young Leaders Camp, the program that we put together and the curriculum that we put together, where we believe that knowledge is just a rumor until it lives in the body. And we want to create experiential learning activities and moments on the level that not only that they are exciting and cool and engaging, but that they are deep enough to penetrate any kind of cynicism, any kind of autopilot, any kind of numbness. Because when you look at the world around yourself, we never had more information about how to live healthy, what to do right. We have all the information we need, but we don't change our behavior. And it's just because we are on autopilot, and we have to create, in order for something to really penetrate, to go into our heart, to then be willing to change our behavior. We need to have these moments, these openings. And these openings are not happening in a classroom, sitting down behind a desk. So movement, like moving your body, experiencing things physically, creates that opening that can actually help us to reprogram ourselves willingly and intentionally. So some of the examples. So our winner of Moonshot Idea in 2022, Matyáš Boháček, who created a sign language translator that did not exist. It's like there is 70 million people hard of hearing or deaf, and they didn't have. So it's like through a video camera in your phone. Then he got, actually, because he won on the stage to receive the prize. One of our patrons offered him to pay his tuition. He then got to Stanford, and his tuition was paid. And then in Stanford, he coded a new system to recognize deepfake. And then Google approached him to actually help them figure out how to, in a super election year around the world, there's more elections than ever, to come with this innovation. He came to us when he was 17. He had no backing. He had no support. We were the first one to find him. And that's what Moonshot is about, to finding people who otherwise might be neglected, lose this potential and value. So this is one. I'm going to give you one more, which is Chantal, who is a girl who escaped from a terror in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Her parents were killed during a massacre. She happened to escape without being able to say goodbye to them. And she's albino, so she's been hunted all life, because there is this belief that you can use albino people for sacrificial.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for sacrificial purposes. There's this belief in many African countries. and she also has sight impairment.
Yeah. Her vision's impaired.
Yeah. So this girl, I met her. She's applied for Moonshot Awards. She's now in the final. I cannot speak more on her because the judging is happening, and we'll see how she's gonna do in the next. But she's in the final of Moonshot Awards out of 900 people out of 112 countries that applied this year. So because Moonshot just in 3 years it grew through the whole world, and she decided to go back and to build schools outside of refugee camps to actually give more safety to other girls so they don't have to go through what she went through. So when I see people like that, so there are for-profit ideas,
yeah,
and there are non-for-profit ideas.
Yeah.
But we keep these people together because they inspire each other.
Yeah.
When I see this amount of resilience and then the thoughtfulness behind the people have so little and still they decide to invest that little into helping so other people don't have to go this way. This is where I want to be.
Right.
This is where I want to be. This is what I want to help. I think people think that, the big game is on the markets or the biggest game is played elsewhere. No, I think this is the biggest game.
I totally agree.
So Moonshot Platform for me it's really a manifestation of both my journey and journey of so many other people that went a long way to be where we are today.
Yeah. I want to make one more comment about Chantal because she's just a ray of light. And given what she has survived in her life, it's amazing. She's also a college student. She's still a student.
Yeah.
And she's working at the White House.
She was so fortunate and that and I think rightfully because she worked for it. She got internship in White House. She just recently finished successfully. So yeah, we're going to hear more about Chantal, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, for sure. So Yemi, okay, you've touched on so many things. I could talk to you for 4 hours. We definitely are going to have you back. But one of the things that you and I really share, aside the fact that we're very woo-woo spiritually and we love our astronomy and astrology, we very much share this notion of mind, body, spirit. And taking care of ourselves physically. We're always comparing notes in terms of our latest practices. But one of the things that you did when we were in Czech Republic together was that you took everybody in the audience through a meditation. And it was including the president, by the way, which was very bold. And your father was there. And it was 100 of us in a room. And it was a super powerful meditation. So I was wondering if you would take our listeners through it.
Of course.
What do you think?
I am here for whatever your listeners can take.
Okay, shall we do it?
I have my instruments here. So there is this tribe from Andes called Aymara that believes that when you speak about future, you point back. And when you speak about past, you point forward, because they believe that you walk through life backwards like this, because you are always looking to the past, but never see what's in the future. And I love this idea. So I used ChatGPT and Midjourney, and I created an animation that starts with me when I was 4 as a boy, and then moves the world backwards. I'm sitting down behind the table. You see me from the back, and then I move back, and the world, the Velvet Revolution, me first coming to US, to Hollywood, me going to Aspen, and so on, and then flying to the space. So I created this, and this inspired me to actually do a meditation inspired by this idea. So I'm gonna take you there, and I want you wherever you are. Whoever is listening and watching this, to just sit down, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. And try to just for a little moment, feel how your body is touching the chair, how your body is being happy. Just realize shoulders and your chin and your forehead, and breathe all the way to your stomach. Every breath, every inhale and every exhale is deepening. And imagine and go back, all the way back, as far as you can go in time, to a moment in life when you were a kid and things start to change. Look at that little girl or little boy and see yourself. Look closer. See your hair, see your skin. Is there light? Is there morning? Is it the noon? Is there sun striking your face? See who you were. See your beautiful eyes. And then just very slowly allow the time to pass. And you are moving backwards as your life is slowly moving towards front. You're looking into the past. Remember your first home. Remember your first moving out. Remember your first disappointment, your first love. Remember your first victory. Remember your first loss. And go further and further. And remember everything you had to do, everything you had to overcome, everything you had to survive to be where you are today. Everything you had to give up, everything you had to sacrifice. Remember the people sacrificed for you to be where you are. And when you arrive to this moment, don't stop and continue to move to the future. And imagine future that you want, that you wish for. Allow yourself and imagine something, right? And slowly inhale with your nose and exhale. One last time, inhale with your nose and exhale. Slowly come back here in your eye. And if you feel like it, you can also stretch like in the morning. So this for me is one of the ways how to arrive to a place that is very close to my core, from which I can go anywhere. When I want to be creative, when I want to be inspired, when I want to, make a good decision. A very short time with really, really great potential. I love doing this with you. I wish you all the best. I know this is a new baby. for you. So it's very exciting. I love Genesis, creating new things and being part of creating new things. And yeah, and thank you for making Austin feel like home every time I'm with you here, and to you and to your family. And to Anna, woo!
I love you, Yemi. Thank you.
Thank you.